Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wim van Kouwenbergen, and I'm very honored to be your host for this award night. So, before we kick off with the keynote presentation, I first would like to welcome on stage Mr. André de Grave, who is the Vice Chairman of BEMAS. Please, André.
Thank you, Wim. It's me again. Good evening, everyone. Those amongst you that were not present this morning at the opening session may be surprised or perhaps disappointed to see me replacing Mr. Johan de Koster, the chairman of BEMAS. Johan asked me to present his deep apologies for his absence. Due to pleasant and enjoyable circumstances, he is unable to be here today with us. So it's up to me to welcome you to the world famous and renowned Asset Performance Award organized by BEMAS. As you may know, BEMAS has a rich tradition of awarding great achievements in maintenance and asset management. After 20 editions of the Maintenance Manager of the Year award, we decided to expand the contest, allowing to both asset owners and service providers to participate in 3 different categories. Asset Performance 4.0 Award, Best Improvement in Maintenance and Asset Management, Technical Team of the Year. This year, Mrs. or Mr. COVID has, however, decided otherwise. The whole industry had to make choices and had too little time to devote to a contest, how prestigious it may be. And that is understandable. That's why we decided to reduce the scope of the 2021 award to a single category. We profoundly thank all applicants, and we hope that the 3 finalists we present today will inspire and motivate everyone to participate in next year's contest. Participating does not take a lot of effort. And just like with the lotto, participation can pay off big. Neither in euro nor in bitcoins, but in terms of team motivation, recognition, culture building, and credibility. The Asset Performance Awards are made to highlight organizations and the people that work for them. I am convinced that also your organization and your people would enjoy the experience. Before leaving the stage, I would also like to take the opportunity to thank the corporate sponsors of BEMAS. Carl Berger-Levrault, Equans, Erics, iCare, Mainnovation, and PDM. It's thanks to their support that BEMAS is able to take many initiatives that benefit the members and the complete maintenance and asset management community in Belgium. I want, of course, also thanks all sponsors of the Asset Performance 4.0 conference. You can see their logo on the screen. Please do visit their booths, and mine as well, to hear more, and collect points with the Asset Performance 4.0 app. If you collect 250 points, you can obtain an inspirational book for free. But now I invite you to enjoy the Asset Performance 4.0 Award Night. Have a good evening, and I hope to see a few of you participating to this award next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, André. So, after this official introduction, it's my pleasure to introduce to you the next speaker. Mr. Peter Hinsen is a technical entrepreneur. He has started high-tech tech companies, and above all, he is a motivational speaker. And he is going to talk about the day after tomorrow in asset performance. Peter, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you very much, Wim, for inviting me. And I'm going to talk straight from the heart about a subject that is very close to my heart, a world that is constantly changing and a world I've been calling the never normal. But first, I recognize many of my friends in the room today. I am an absolute nerd, as most of you are. We believe in the power of technology. I certainly absolutely believe that technology can really make a better world. And I believe in the power of leveraging technology. The only problem with technology is it actually has to work. And if some of you had relatives or probably children 2 weeks ago who suffered the horrible 6-hour outage of Facebook, you saw how the world is starting to live where technology actually doesn't always work. I really felt sorry for the poor guy who had to figure out what was going on. But if your company motto is move fast and break things, then of course these things are about to happen. But I wrote a book 10 years ago, which was called The New Normal. And I wanted to describe a world where technology would stop being special and just become normal. And some of you might remember the old normal. This is one of my favorites. My father, who worked in technology at Exxon his entire career, came home with a magazine in 1980 when I was 11. And it was an advertisement for a 10 megabyte hard disk for the wonderful price of $3,495. You can probably imagine what a fortune that was in 1980. You could basically buy a small car. But now every picture you take with your smartphone is more than that entire hard disk of 1980. And the problem with technology isn't technology. The problem is users. In the past, in the old normal, users had no idea how to use technology. This is one of my favorite illustrations. In the old normal, users would often be confused by new technologies. They were afraid to ask the right questions. And when they did try to use new technologies, they often had a completely wrong way of utilizing technologies, often, of course, with totally disastrous consequences as a result. This man doesn't work in asset performance anymore. But what is fascinating is I always show the second clip. This is the woman who's been out of the office for a long time and has no idea how technology has actually changed. And the funny is, yeah, you can understand the humor, but if I show this to my children, they have no idea why this is funny. That shows that you have some old asset managers here in the room as well. But what is fascinating is a world that we've seen in the last 10 years where technology has become absolutely normal. And we've seen the rise of these typical S-curves. These S-curves, in the beginning, you see that technology is strange and new, we don't understand it. And then it actually starts to become normal, and then it moves into normality. It flips into the new normal. This is pretty much what happened in the world of digital, and not always for a good cause. I love this example. Two people in bed, their faces illuminated by the shining of their smartphones. And the irony is they're probably talking to each other. They're communicating who's going to pick up the kids from school the next day. We now live in a world where digital technology is absolutely commonplace. And not just are we completely familiar, we trust technology with an almost blind faith. And what if we're not even halfway in this evolution? The last 10 years were spectacular. In our personal lives, in our professional lives, technology became absolutely normal. I love this illustration back in 2016 when everybody wanted to take a selfie of Hillary Clinton. But last year, of course, because of Corona, we had the Democratic convention, which was a virtual digital only event. The year before Corona, I had the pleasure to go to Italy, where I visited a small Italian town where an Italian artist had painted the logos of today onto the things of the past, where you see how things are disappearing from our normal environment, how the media has been transformed as a result of technology, how a community works completely differently. And I love this, two old ladies chatting under a Twitter sign. Technology has become absolutely normal. This is the most natural interface to an entirely new generation. But I have no idea how you keep up to date. And what is fascinating is that the world seems to be going faster than ever before. This is on the left how adults use technology to communicate, and the right is the relevance to the next generation. To give you an idea, that orange piece over there, that's making a phone call. If you can see on the right, teenagers today never pick up the phone. The most worrying thing is not the orange part, but actually that gray part underneath. And what you see here is email. And this is the relevance of email to the next generation. I love this example. I came home the other day. My eldest daughter had a problem on her laptop, and I have to fix this. I am the sysadmin of the Hinson family. She gives me her laptop. I open it up, and to my absolute horror, I see that she has 7,342 unread mails. Now, I don't know how you feel if you have 7,342, but I panicked. She saw my panic, took the laptop out of my hand, opened email, did select all, delete, and said, problem solved, Daddy. This is the next generation that thinks email was invented in the times of the dinosaurs. And as I said, I have no idea how old you are. I was dragged into this world of technology when my father came home with this 37 years ago. Connect this to the TV and produce that. And this was a wow moment in my life. Some of you might remember that. If you compare it to the games we play today, it is quite significant. I had the pleasure of playing these games. I absolutely loved them. And this was the game I really wanted to play, Raiders of the Lost Ark. I put this in my Atari and it produced that. Little disappointment, but you can see the difference here. This is marketing and this is reality. And look very closely in the middle. This was Indiana Jones back in 1982. I played it for months. This is the game my kids play on the PlayStation. Sometimes I can't even see the difference between what is real and what is virtual. When I was young, my mother had one major concern: don't sit too close to the TV. That was really important to her. And then this is the future, which is actually ironic on many, many levels. But what we're entering is a world where this type of overlay of technology and overlay of information is starting to become absolutely normal as well. In a world where you could just think about how this can transform education, for example, but we're entering a world where the information where we have access today is going to be superimposed on almost everything that we do. Information becomes a completely new game. And that's why I get excited about what's next. Ever since I wrote the book, people are saying, well, what's the new normal? And actually, I stopped trying to fit that into one word, because everything you see on this slide is now absolutely normal. Let me show you a couple of examples. Some of it comes from the world of the consumers, some from the world of corporates. In the consumer world, something like social, which was special 10 years ago, now is absolutely normal. You can talk about the negative aspects or how dangerous it is, but one thing is clear, it's normal. When you look at the way to reach out to consumers using multiple channels, that has become absolutely normal as well, and certainly the combination of online and offline channels. The world of big data that we know so well used to be the world that was for the Googles and the Facebooks. Now every company has become a big data company. And of course, we don't use technology in the standard way anymore. Mobile has become normal as well. But if you look at the world of the enterprise, look at the cloud. I remember being in this very room, 5, 6 years ago, talking about how the cloud would change things, and people wouldn't believe it. And now we saw that almost everybody has been transitioning into a completely new world, given the rise to new players like Amazon. Look at the world of agile and lean that we started to take from the world of startups. The rise of platforms, and not just economical, but also technology platforms. And I single out one element. The way that we build new applications isn't monolithic anymore, but we click and connect, almost like Legos. The use of APIs. I take one example, the Uber application. Uber didn't build its own map interface. They click in the maps from Google. They don't build their own payment. They click in the API. And my favorite is if you communicate with the driver, actually the entire communication is completely done by an API from a company called Twilio. And Twilio is a company most of you have never heard of, but it's a company that is quoted on the stock exchange and worth more than $50 billion. And all they do is provide an API for communication. Now, this is today, but as we move into an exciting world, which is changing faster than ever before, let me share a couple of examples that we see from the world of IT. The concept of RPA, robotic process automation, means that many of the manual interventions that we did in the past are now more and more being fully automized. The world of data, the big data, is now becoming a world where the use of neural networks that we've studied for 40, 50 years, we now have the computing capacity to actually make this work. Deep learning and machine learning is ushering us into an environment where it's no longer time will tell, but it's really data will tell. That means that the rise of intelligence that is embedded is becoming normalized in almost everything that we do. And let me single out one final element here. In the world of consumers, I don't know if you're into crypto or not, but what we saw is that recently we now see that countries are starting to move into the world of blockchain and cryptocurrencies. It means that decentralized ledgers and database are normalizing incredibly quickly as well. What excites me about this is that if you see this world moving, you can clearly see that whether it's consumer or enterprise, whether it's today or tomorrow, there isn't one new normal, it's a combination. And that, I think, is going to affect every single one of us. And in this exciting world where we see the world of information and operational technology blending into each other, I think we're also going to see an acceleration of new technologies that are going to materialize faster and faster. And I get excited by that. And what if we're only halfway there in that journey? The book that changed my life is this book, Being Digital, which I read 25 years ago. It's a book by Nicholas Negroponte, the founder of the famous MIT Media Lab. I later had a chance to work with Nicholas. But in this book, 25 years ago, he said there's only two types of activities in the world. There are bits and atoms. In the world of bits, everything is information. A bank, for example, is clearly a bits company. But if you're an atoms company, you're physically doing things, whether this is chemicals or cement, you're moving atoms from A to B. And in this book, he described that eventually every atoms company would become a bits company. And that's why I'm really excited about what actually happened in the last 18 months, because in a way, it was the great acceleration into this new normal. I don't know how you observed it, but I was really grateful in the last 18 months that this pandemic happened in 2020 and not in 2000. Imagine that we had to do the pandemic 20 years ago when we were still dialing into modems and graphics would slowly crawl onto our screen. It wouldn't have worked. What actually happened is that something that seemed far away changed all of our lives. I mean, I'm a big sci-fi enthusiast. It reminded me very much of the day the Earth stood still. I mean, what we encountered in the last 18 months was not the day, not a week, not a quarter, more than a year. We saw things that we never thought we would ever see in our lifetime. And fascinating is that this little virus also became the great 2020 digital stress test. Can we still survive in a world where digital was our only option? As a company, organization, even as a family or an individual. I don't know how you survived lockdown, but in our house with 2 teenage kids, there was an absolute perfect correlation in our house between the quality of the Wi-Fi signal and my appreciation as a father. If the Wi-Fi was good, I was okay. But if there was just a tiny interruption in their YouTube or TikTok stream, they openly started to question if I ever got a degree in computer science. And it was fascinating because it's not just lockdown. In almost every type of exit scenario, we saw that technology was playing an ever-increasing role. I saw a spot over there, but I love this example in Singapore where a robot dog was patrolling a park to see if people were actually respecting social distancing. Who could have imagined that 18 months ago? We're now in a very strange situation where in many countries, we now see that the pandemic is starting to be over and more people are returning back to work, to factories and offices. And that is really difficult, not for us, but actually for our pets. I mean, imagine that you're a dog who has actually had their owner with them for the last 18 months, and now all of a sudden they're not there anymore. And this is the most wonderful example that I've seen. This is now completely sold out on Amazon. This is called Pet Chats. This is a connected device for anxious dogs, and you just hang it on the wall. It connects to the Wi-Fi, and you can train your dog to put its wet nose against the screen, and this initiates a team call to the owner at work, so you can reassure your pet that you're going to be home soon. I'm not sure that is the best example of the new normal, but actually a good illustration of the fact that we passed that stress test. But what is fascinating for many companies is they started to realize that digital wasn't just the cherry on the cake, it was a big part of the cake. I believe that we're now entering a classic red pill, blue pill moment. Some people get excited about the new normal, and some people get homesick for the old normal. And if you ask me, we're in a very strange transition in the BCAC, period of transition where the vaccines are slowly starting to kick in. Some people want to go back to the old normal. I think it's going to take longer than we think. And my fundamental premise is maybe the old normal doesn't exist anymore. And that's why I go back to these S-curves. These S-curves is something that I have studied in great detail. And I had the enormous pleasure to work with this leading economist, Carlota Perez, an Argentinian economist, who has made her life's work out of these S-curves. She's written an amazing book called Technological Revolutions and Financial Capital. And she says these S-curves are nothing new or special. We see them all over again. Whether this is the Industrial Revolution or steam or railways or mass production and now IT, the same thing happens all over again. Something is new, we don't understand it, it starts to rise, and it flips over into normality. But these cycles used to take 20, 30 years to materialize. We're used to change. I mean, we've seen that all over economic history, but the big difference is they're now happening faster and faster and faster. And then the question is, are you ready for that? Because if things start to move too fast, we get into the concept of disruption. And that brings me to my second favorite economist, Joseph Schumpeter. I didn't have a chance to work with him because he's long dead. But Schumpeter was a strange guy. He had three ambitions in life. This man wanted to be the most influential economist in the world. He wanted to be the best horseman in Austria, and he wanted to be the best lover in Austria. Well, people should set ambitions. That is very clear. And on his deathbed, this man lamented the fact that he could only achieve two of his life goals because, in his words, there were a lot of really good horsemen in Austria. Strange guy. But he's the one who came up with the concept of creative destruction. Something new comes, and we don't actually understand it. We can't position it. And that's a moment where we can actually see fundamental changes. And I believe that is going to happen right now. If you ask me post-pandemic, are we going to go back to peace and quiet? I think no. I think we're going to see more changes. Look at the world of technology. It's not because digital is normal that it's over. Far from it. If you look at the convent of virtual augmented reality, the real power of big data analytics, the advent of embedded intelligence, and combined with massive automation, we are going to see a powerful cocktail that actually is going to blow us past the new normal. We're going to see more technological seismic shocks. But that's not it. We're in the middle of a biological seismic shock that is far from over. Think about the big concern we had before the pandemic. It was the environment. Think about ecological seismic shocks. This is a scene from Blade Runner 2049. I love the movie, but look at the orange sky. This is San Francisco right after the summer. Many of my friends who live there sent me pictures like this. What a strange year we've had. First, we had Texas freezing over, collapsing the power grid with enormous consequences economically. A few weeks later, we had record-breaking heat waves in the US and Canada. And of course, where we live here, we've had a very strange summer, both in Belgium, in Germany, and in many parts of Europe. I believe that that's going to be part of our environment as well. Think about the public discontent about that, where people really got angry. Maybe that is something that we're going to have to figure out how to deal with as well. I honestly believe that we might actually see more of those social seismic shocks. And if you look at it from a big political point of view, we're now in a situation where we probably have a world that is more unstable than ever before in the last 70 years. A global trade war has escalated into a full-blown technological Cold War. There is now a technology stack in the West and a technology stack in the East. And the world is polarizing very rapidly. So if you ask me, are we going to go back to peace and quiet? No. I actually think that we're going to see more changes ahead, but we shouldn't actually fear them because they're all opportunities. They're opportunities because they actually transfer into systemic shifts. And those are opportunities that we have to capture. Let me explain. Look at consumer behavior. This was already greatly altered as a result of digital becoming normal, and then COVID just accelerated that. Same thing in terms of work dynamics, but more fundamentally, the way that companies will accelerate and see volatility in business and operating models is only going to continue. We're going to see more when it comes to capacity and resources necessary to implement our strategy. Maybe also with volatility when it comes to finance, but also with enormous opportunities ahead. And I get really excited about that because it means that we're seeing a world that is now shifting into each other that can really take advantage of this opportunity of the never normal. Now, I don't know if you get excited about this, but it's kind of a strange world. It's a world where little things can have huge global consequences, both in the bits and in the atoms world. But it's a world that I started calling the never normal. And if you look at it, it's a world which is characterized by a number of things. One is the world is more fluid than ever before. And we saw this, all of us, in March of last year. All of a sudden, many of our colleagues were working from home. If we went back to the office, it wasn't the same. And I was really glad that I had older kids. I mean, some of my colleagues with young kids, it was terrible. I love this Fisher-Price work from home playset, including video conference material, crying babies, and wine bottles. Well, maybe it wasn't that bad, but Lord, it wasn't easy. And it was wonderful to see how a society could adapt to this new reality, to this bubble economy. This is the Berliner Philharmonic. Not easy to make a profit, but I love this Dutch example where Dutch restaurant owners put greenhouses in front of their restaurants for people to enjoy a corona-proof meal. And I think Stephen Hawking nailed it when he says, intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. And I think this is what we're going to need in that world of the never normal, a world that is constantly changing, a world which actually has winners and losers, the best and the worst of times. This is probably the craziest economic graph of the pandemic. This is the market value of Zoom compared to the combined market value of 7 of the largest airlines added up. Zoom was worth more than 7 of the biggest airlines. And the reason is very simple. We stopped flying. And then you see the ripple effect of a connected economy. We stop flying, the airlines need less planes, Airbus scraps 15,000 jobs. They order less engines, boom, Rolls-Royce scraps 9,000 jobs. We stop flying, we don't need rental cars, Hertz goes out of business. And then you see the winners. We started to massively shop online. A huge shift in consumer behavior, an enormous boost in e-commerce, an enormous boost in logistics. And then you begin to see that we're actually seeing an enormous acceleration with winners and losers all the time. Now, I get excited by this, but the question is, what does it mean? It means one thing, is that you have to actually move at the right time. This is the theory of optionality. I'm not going to bore you with theory on a wonderful award night like this, but almost everything you do in life follows a pattern like this. You start, you grow, you peak, and you decline. Whether this is a new business, a new product, a new brand, my God, even life itself. And we really know that if you wait until the very last moment to reinvent yourself, that's too late. Even when you're going down, that's too late. And if you're at your peak, that used to be okay in the past. Now we know that we have to think about what's next, the moment that we're actually doing very well. Now, ironically, this is something that you guys know very well, because you have to start predicting things even when they haven't actually manifested themselves. Now, I can guarantee you it's about making sure that companies start to take this very seriously. Peter Drucker said that beautifully. The greatest danger in times of turbulence is not the turbulence, but to act with yesterday's logic. Now, if you look at the opportunities there, let me put a couple of caveats. First, maybe we have to make sure that we don't overhype what we can do. And I have to say, maybe we've done a little bit too much of that in the past. I was in Denmark 3 weeks ago visiting Lego. This is a picture I took in a Lego factory. It's fully automated. If you buy a box of Legos today and you open up the box, you are the first human hands to touch that piece of plastic. But the last couple of years, maybe we've overhyped the technology part, overhyped the automation. It was autonomous this, autonomous that, driverless here, driverless that. But honestly, I didn't come here with a driverless car. I love this example where even John Deere said, putting a human on a tractor, how incredibly old school is that? But as I said, I didn't come here in a driverless car. I would have loved to. I would have loved to have driven here to Antwerp and got outside and told my car, well, pick me up at 9 o'clock. Huh? That would have allowed me to have a couple of extra drinks later at the reception. I would have loved for my car to say, just pick me up at 9 o'clock. You know what? Drive around, Uber yourself, make some money. That's the kind of conversation I would like to have with my car. But I can't. As a matter of fact, we're now a little bit of a hangover moment because I love what Peter Thiel said. We wanted flying cars, but we got 140 characters. And there is a gap here between what is real and what is possible. When Google DeepMind, the AI algorithm of Google, beat the best Go player in 2016, I thought, wow, this changes everything. This is AI everywhere. Unfortunately, many of you have realized in the past 18 months that we're not there yet. Most of you have gone online, you looked for stuff on Google, you find it, you buy it, it gets delivered, and then for the next 3 weeks, you get advertisements for the stuff you already bought. That is not artificial intelligence, that is colossal stupidity. And I think that's a sense of techno-realism that we're going to need. We have our friends from Boston Dynamics here. You've all seen the famous videos with the Boston Dynamics dancing robots, but this is the latest version of the Boston Dynamics robot. It isn't dancing anymore, it's stacking boxes. And I think that's the techno-realism that we might need to have once we enter that never normal. And maybe at the same time, we have to put the human more into the picture. I mean, the pandemic wasn't easy for us. We put on a brave face in front of our screens, but the reality is that many of our lives were really messed up. Even the CEO of Microsoft said, too much screen time, not good for your mental health. How can we find a combination where we can actually see the potential of the never normal and still put that human at the very heart? And make no mistake, we're going to see an enormous roller coaster ride. I call them Hemingway patterns. And I love this story. The famous writer Ernest Hemingway actually went bankrupt. You can say, how did that happen? Well, a journalist went to him and said, Mr. Hemingway, how did you go bankrupt? And his response was legendary. He said, well, in 2 ways, gradually and then suddenly. Very, very slowly, and then boom, it just happened. And I love this because I think we're going to see more Hemingway patterns move into our corporate environments. And then the question is, are we actually prepared for that? Are we capable of understanding how to deal with that? And I would argue that most companies today are completely ill-equipped to deal with that. I get excited by the roller coaster ride of the never normal, but there are 2 types of responses. One is robustness, which is the ability to keep operating even in times of difficulty. But maybe more important is resilience, the capability to bounce back, to take advantage, and to actually maybe bounce forward. And I believe that we're going to see an opportunity where a lot of traditional companies are going to be capable of reinventing themselves. I wrote a book in full pandemic called The Phoenix and the Unicorn. And the reason is I was getting a little tired of the unicorn stories, the new kids on the block, the new technology companies. Every conference you went to, it was Uber this and Airbnb. And you could see people in the audience thinking, that's really nice, but we're not Uber, we're not Airbnb. I believe there's now going to be a potential for phoenixes, companies to completely reinvent themselves. I take the world of retail as an example. Retail is evolving right in front of our very eyes. And technology, innovation, but the real power is changing customers. If you have children, you will understand this. I love this example. This is a Santa Claus letter of a young girl who writes to Santa, "Dear Santa Claus, how are you? I'm good. Here is what I want for Christmas." And then the Amazon URL of what that child wants to have under the Christmas tree. That is the new normal right in front of our very eyes. And what is fascinating is that is the reason why Amazon is the big fat unicorn. But I became fascinated by the other side. A company like Walmart, 2.5 million employees, completely reinventing itself. This is a great example. This is the Walmart in-home shopping app in the US. You buy something on the app, a Walmart associate comes to your house in 30 minutes, unlocks your smart door or smart garage door, can actually then put the stuff inside. And if you want, they will even store the things that needs to be refrigerated in your refrigerator. And you can follow everything on the app because there's a camera and connectivity. I love this example of a company that is reinventing itself. But of course, it's a lot more difficult to do a phoenix than to actually do a unicorn. What is the key? The key is, I believe, a clear eye on what I call the day after tomorrow. Let me show you this video. I love this video. This is New York in 1911. And in 1911, all you saw in New York were horses and carriages. And then there's an amazing piece of video where the very first automobile arrives into New York City in 1911. Now imagine that you live in New York in 1911. You've never seen a car, you've only seen a horse, and you see your first automobile. What would your reaction have been? Would you be excited? Would you be scared? Or would you be angry? And this man was very angry. This man, Ed Klein, sold horses in New York, and he hated the hype around the automobile. As a matter of fact, he was so frustrated that Ed put this advertisement in the New York Times to convince people not to buy an automobile, but just to keep on buying horses. I think there's only one conclusion after 110 years. Ed Klein was an idiot. But if you were there and you owned a stable, would you have seen the potential and turned your stable into a garage? And I think this is what I call the day after tomorrow phenomenon. How much time do you spend on today, tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow? What is today? It's the hundreds of emails you get. It's the dozens of team calls. What is tomorrow? Next year's budget. I love budgets. It's budget season at the moment. Budgets is a yearly corporate sadistic ritual where people put fake news in Excel that is consolidated into something that never works. And then there's the day after tomorrow, which is new ideas, new technologies, new innovations, new business models that could change the rule of the game. Honestly, how much time can you spend on today, tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow? And many people tell me, oh, 70, 20, 10. Reality is often 93, 7, and 0. And the problem is value. Today is very important. Tomorrow, even more so. But the day after tomorrow becomes crucial if you want to be able to reinvent yourself. Unfortunately, many of you work in industries where this is not the complete model. Some of you are faced with that big, ugly red square on the left, which has negative energy, which we started to call the shit of yesterday. How are you actually balancing that you can spend more time on the day after tomorrow and less on cleaning up the legacy from the past? And of course, being in Belgium, I had to put in a Belgium example. I love this painting from Magritte, La Clairvoyance. How can you interpret the egg and figure out what that bird is going to be? I think the challenges only become even more important into that concept of the never normal. We're going to have to be clever. We're going to have to reinvent ourselves. And one of the things that I find fascinating in this world where information and operation technology is blending together is that we both came to the conclusion that data becomes absolutely core. But this is a challenge because data isn't data. There is a data culture inside of every organization. And we're starting to see more and more data. And we also see the complexity of turning that into true actionable knowledge. The problem is we don't have enough people to deal with that, and technology won't solve everything. This is an example that is one of my favorite data stories, and I apologize because it's not a politically correct story. But I love this story because you might remember this. 3 years ago, the year before the pandemic, in the island of Hawaii, there was a very strange incident when a civil servant accidentally pressed the wrong button on an alarm system on the island of Hawaii. And every inhabitant got a message like this on their smartphone saying, there's a nuclear missile that's going to hit the island and you're all going to die. These things happen. People press the wrong buttons, especially civil servants. But I have no idea how you would respond if you got a message like this on your smartphone. What is fascinating, and I apologize, it's not politically correct, but it's a beautiful big data story. This is the most interesting big data that I have seen. This is Pornhub, the largest pornographic website in the world. And this is the average traffic level on Pornhub in Hawaii the moment that this person pressed the wrong button. What do you think happened? Maybe there were more important things to worry about at that moment. So there was a massive 77% drop. But the most beautiful thing about this is 22 minutes later, people said, I still haven't seen anything. And it went up like crazy, like a massive sign of relief onto the Isle of Hawaii. What it shows is that interpreting data isn't raw technology. It's almost the psychology of a data culture in between. We're entering a world where it's going to be about figuring out how to combine man and machine. I believe in the potential, because there are things that we can do as humans, there are things that computers can do, but it's really about figuring out how to do it together. And this is an exciting moment. This is one of my favorite illustrations. This is AutoDraw. I don't know if you've ever done it, but you should try it out. It's a Google platform. It's an AI test case, and it's for people who suck at drawing. You draw something that says, did you mean that? It's an did you mean that AI platform. Did you mean, yes, I meant that. I mean, it's for people who are really bad at drawing. And what is fascinating is the more people that use it, the better it actually gets. And I think that we're at a moment in time where this type of combination is starting to really materialize. I see the strangest things. I invest in a lot of startups. This is a startup that I recently saw that has built a golf robot. And this is an amazing device. You put it on any golf course in the world. It looks at the topology of the terrain, looks at the wind patterns, and is capable of doing a hole-in-one on every hole on every field. I mean, game over. When this came out, the golf community was absolutely not amused. But we're in a situation now where this is apparently the best massage you can get in the world. But every time I show this to an audience, half the people says, wow, that's cool. I want to try that. And the other half says, no way, I won't let that touch my body. I think we're in an interesting situation where we're going to have to be able to understand what our role is as humans in a world where this type of technology is moving faster and faster. I love this illustration, what happened in just 10 years in an environment like Boston Dynamics. But we're also going to have to be careful because we need to train these devices. And if we're not going to be nice to them, it's eventually going to backfire. We have to figure out how we're going to control that and make sure that we are still in charge. Does it mean that we're going to lose our job? No. I love what the previous CEO of IBM said. Maybe only 10% of the jobs will disappear, but 100% will change. In this exciting world, I believe that if we want to build a future, we're going to have to be bold on the future, bold on the vision, and flexible on the details. We're going to have to figure out how to organize ourselves in a world of the never normal. I came up with a model which I call the hourglass model. How do you organize for this type of radical innovation? We all know what the shape of an hourglass is. The top of the hourglass, this is the wide lens where you pick up the ideas, where you understand what needs to happen, and where you boil it down, you experiment, and you reduce. This is the sense and try. And then it falls into the bottom part of the hourglass. This is where you scale and run. And I believe every company, every department needs this type of an approach. It's the combination of the 0 to 1 and the 1 to n. That also is a reflection on people. Because in every organization, you have soldiers who love to do what they already know, and you need artists who understand and pick up things that other people don't see. But what is the right combination of soldiers and artists in your organization? In the end, I believe it boils down to almost a culture where we also need the openness, the psychological safety to actually try, to be open-minded and take experiments. I love what Mandela said, I never fail, I either win or learn. In this exciting world of the never normal, unfortunately, I believe that if you want to increase innovation, you're going to have to lower the cost of failure. You can't wait for the final Harvard Business Review article anymore. This is no longer just about lessons learned. It's going to be about lessons learning. How do we figure it out as we go along? And that is probably the biggest reset we need to do. In the end, when you look at it, it's not about technology, but it's about people. It's about skills and minds and hearts. Skill set. Let's be honest, we live in a world where we love technology, but what we're going to see in the next 10 years is going to be even more impressive than what we've seen in the last 10 years. And that means that reskilling, especially in our field, is going to be something that has to be absolutely core in every aspect of what we do. But it's more than skills. How do we build an organization where people have the right mindset, where they're passionately curious about the future, where they're endlessly open-minded about the never normal, where they're forcefully resilient to deal with the day after tomorrow, and vigorously creative if we want to figure out how to actually turn that egg into a bird. And the final element is heart set. It needs to matter what we actually do. And that brings me to my conclusion. I get really excited about this. I believe that we actually have an amazing role and opportunity to play. We can actually do something about it. Many people say, oh, it's going really, really fast now. And I don't think so. Let me end with this. These are two footsteps that are 66 years apart. What you see here on the left is 1903, where two bicycle repairmen took spare parts from their bicycle shop and built the first 1903 Wright Flyer, and humankind flew for the very first time. What you see on the right is the launch of the Apollo 11 in 1969, the year that I was born, the day that we put the first man on the moon. Between that beach in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, 1903, and Neil Armstrong, 1969, is only 66 years in between. That's it, with 2 world wars. So if you're complaining that the world is moving too fast, think about this. And then we have to say, are we actually making progress? Because that is now 52 years ago. I would hate to think that the pinnacle of the 21st century is that we have put our greatest minds on the planet to work to build a global platform on which we can like cat pictures. I would hate to think that that is our crowning achievement, or that we can bring disco singers from the 1970s back in virtual reality. That means we have an enormous role to play. I get inspired by the never normal, but there are still plenty of people out there who don't see the opportunities of this constantly changing world. I am a perennial optimist. I know one thing. There's an opportunity, but we will have to turn this all the way up to 11. The future is already here. It's not about technology, but it's more than ever about mindset. And I'm going to end with my favorite quote from Maya Angelou. If you're always trying to be normal, you will never know how truly amazing you can be. I wish you the very best in the never normal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter, for this very, very inspiring motivational speech. We really enjoyed this, and you got the applause for this. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a second very honored guest speaker. We are here present in Antwerp, a very lovely city. Unfortunately, we don't have too many people coming from abroad. But anyhow, there still are from Saudi Arabia, many other countries are present here. And so we were very happy and very pleased that also Mr. Koen Kennis, who is a deputy here at the city of Antwerp. Well, all your responsibilities, I'm not going to name them, there are a lot of them. But what maybe not a lot of people might know is that Koen Kennis used to be someone of our community. He is well aware of maintenance and the importance of asset management. And nowadays he is also, next to his role as a deputy for the city of Antwerp, also present in a lot of boardrooms. And there I'm sure of that he always talks about what is the asset performance, what about the maintenance of the assets that you are operating here. So please, Mr. Kennis, can I invite you to the stage and give your keynote address also. Thank you.
Thank you, Wim. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, as Deputy Mayor of the City of Antwerp, I want to welcome you here tonight in Antwerp. I want to welcome you also here tonight in the Flanders Meeting and Convention Center of Antwerp. This place is traditional, the home port of the Antwerp Symphony Orchestra. Today, it is the home port of the asset performance community. Thank you for coming here. I was very pleased when I got the invitation to be here and to speak here. It is an honor for me to stand here on this podium. And when I accepted this invitation, I was thrown back in the past. Because like Wim said, excuse me, for me, I was thinking about my period when I was active in asset management. Indeed, I'm standing here now as a deputy mayor of Antwerp, but in the past, I was, for instance, ground support equipment manager at Belgavia. It's now Avia Partner, but also later on managing consultant and technical director for Stork Asset Management Solutions. And that experience that I had in these years is also today very useful for me in my activities. There goes no day for whether I use these things. For instance, when it goes about processes and procedures in enterprises, or when it's all about asset management, about technology, and also the way technology changes our lives. And I think Peter Hinsen has told very good what can happen in this. I see that digitalization is very impactful also on the fields, the policy terrains where I'm busy with. And not at least in mobility, for instance, but also in domains where I'm also responsible for economy or tourism. Yesterday, I had a very interesting day, a very inspiring evening, I have to say, with some Antwerp entrepreneurs from retail and hospitality. The topic of the evening was Smart Entrepreneurs Go Digital. I believe really in progress thanks to smart and technological solutions. And I think that will change our world. Ladies and gentlemen, when we see today in the media, in our talks, in our companies, what is the word that probably the most is used? It is sustainability. It's on climate change, it's on CO2 reduction. And also, when you look to politics, to policy, you see that every day it goes about sustainability. And perhaps sustainability has become too much a container concept. But at the same time, it's very important to bring it back to what it really is. And asset performance, ladies and gentlemen, goes about sustainability. I am convinced now, but I was also convinced in the past that asset performance management, everything what we do on asset management is very important when it's about sustainability. It goes about sustainability on the use that we have from our capital, the utilization of the assets. It is about sustainability because it goes about creating no waste. It goes about sustainability because it goes about how people can use assets. It goes about sustainability because it's important for ecology. We work all the time on a maximal throughput for less or even without loss, without waste. Ladies and gentlemen, asset performance is becoming more and more important in the world, in your environment, but also in my environment, the government. You see that digitalization and also what is about asset performance is becoming more and more important for us. The organization has asked me to elaborate a little bit on the Port of Antwerp and how it's connecting with this type of things. And I will do it with much pleasure. I'm also board member of the Port of Antwerp. Today, we speak Of course, on the one side, on the physical port of Antwerp, but on the other side, we more and more speak also on what's happening in the digital port of Antwerp. Those two things get every day more the same, more closer to each other. And the day that they are, that we have a digital twin, like it's called, is coming very nearby. And when you see what the port of Antwerp is, I will explain in assets what this means, that physical port of Antwerp, the port. It goes about, it's very impressive. It goes about 358 kilometers of roads, 100 kilometers of railroads, 169 kilometers of quayside, 24 bridges, 192 buildings, 175 kilometers of sewers. And I can go on and on and on. So you see the physical assets are very impressive. But beside that type of physical assets, the port is of course also big when it goes about digital assets. To give you some figures, we have 2 active data centers, a network of 170 kilometers of fiber. That vital infrastructure connects to each other. Nautical control rooms, 15 radar equipment, more than 600 cameras, a radio network, the control systems for bridges and locks, the systems to regulate the traffic of boats, trains, containers, all in the port. That digital twin of the port is what we know and what we are building further on and is coming closer to reality. The Port of Antwerp is, of course, like all companies where you're also responsible for, has an asset database with unique IDs of all those physical assets. Bridges, locks, buildings, roads become data. And with those data, we can start working in different environments. Port is very active, of course, when it goes about those assets to use this on maintenance management. Of course, it's one of the first steps that you have to take. But also when you look to what they are doing now, inspections of bridges, of quays and other vital infrastructures, what was very, what costed a lot of hours of the people happens now on another way. They have a 3D model of each bridge, for instance, of each bridge. And with that 3D model, they go to the bridge and do the inspection completely. They check it, but also they have data on the times the bridge has opened. And all those inspections that they do saves time and money in what they did compared with the way it worked in the past. All those data are gathered, used in the maintenance management system, and are also usable in other systems. So everything is also, for instance, on a GIS platform and things like that. When I compare it with the time that I was a consultant in the port area and helped them to set the first steps on maintenance management, then I see now a complete different world. A world that's also complete, that is digitalized, and that where people are using digital tools, digital equipment to do their work. So I can give you a lot of these type of examples. What I see is that the most important thing in this is connecting the systems with each other, connecting the data with each other, so that you get an intelligent network of data. An intelligent network of data that, of course, contribute to the improvement of the asset performance of all those infrastructures in the port. At the end of 2019, these underlying infrastructure, these data infrastructure, became acknowledged as a critical digital infrastructure. It is also very important. It is a critical digital infrastructure because it supports the operational working of the port area 24/7, 365 days, all year long. And it's also very important, of course, for our economy. Just like the physical infrastructure, the real infrastructure that exists on concrete and steel is that what is today built in bits and bytes, also from essential importance for the port area, but of course also for the Antwerp and Flemish economy. I want to thank you because I believe that in the past, the private enterprises have took a big advantage on asset management here in Flanders, surely, took a big advantage when it's about asset performance, when it's about asset management. But I believe that today, also with the help of this community, also in government environment, this becomes more and more important. And I see today, and perhaps it's a little bit because I always repeat it, but I see today that in a lot of government companies, also asset management becomes more and more important, that they use it also more and more in reality. And I think these are very important steps forward also for our economy. I want to thank you that I can be here. I hope you all have had here until now a good experience, also a good experience in the city. I want to invite you, of course, to go out also in the city, but after the drinks here, Wim. And I want to thank you for your attention and further interesting days here on the Asset Performance Award and on the Asset Performance exhibition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Koen, for your, it was a pleasure for having you. Thank you very much. So let's go to the next step or the second part of our award evening. And this part is, of course, deciding or proclaiming who will be the winner of the Asset Performance 4.0 award. We have 3 finalists. You see them on the screen. So we have Saudi Aramco with the plant reliability condition monitoring and prediction dashboard. We have SciTech services with data and AI-driven plant optimization. And of course, we have also Remotive, who is talking about transformation of the operations by developing an app. And the first case that is going to be briefly presented is the case of Saudi Aramco by Mr. Ali Al-Kwarni. He is the responsible for reliability. So please join us on the stage. So, Mr. Al-Kwarni, what was for you the motivation to participate at the contest?
The BMAS and the Asset Performance is well-known organization, and we're eager to share our experience and the technology that we have with the Asset Performance community. Okay, so yeah.
Thank you very much for this. And so we are looking forward to hear about your presentation. So there you have the clicker to move forward. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wim, for the introduction. And it is a proud moment to be here, gentlemen and ladies, in this unique event to present Saudi Aramco RACE initiative in the plant conditional monitoring and prediction. My name is Ali Al-Garni. I'm the reliability supervisor in RACE producing department. RACE producing is a milestone in Saudi Aramco journey, a point where the potential and power of the fourth industrial revolution have been unleashed. RACE is an oil and gas facility processing different types of hydrocarbons in addition to treating water and generating electrical power. All of these plants and processes are operated by more than 80,000 assets, where each one has its own reliability program, which enabled us to achieve and sustain high asset performance. As you know, the oil and gas sector is not easy business. The sector is being challenged by many aspects, including the plant reliability, asset integrity, market demand, and the environmental footprint. Despite all of the challenges that we have seen, we were able to achieve high results in the reliability and asset management. However, with the technology involvement, we decided to move a step forward in the implementation of the latest intelligent and smart applications in the field of asset management. With the great success that we have in the past, we were striving to explore and apply the digital solutions in the asset management. So we have established our Reliability Intelligent Center, which we call IK Reliability Center. This center consists of multiple integrated systems and dashboards that work together in providing fully automated monitoring for our assets and analyzing the raw data from the Hysterian server. This center and integrated systems were built, developed, integrated in-house by our engineers. The center basically is about different or multiple equations, algorithms that work together in analyzing the data, as we said, from the Hysterian server and the multiple databases. This center comes with 3 features. The first one is the data analytics, where there is extensive access to the raw data and the sources of the data, and gives more integration from different systems and databases. Also, from the failure prediction feature, we have been able to prevent so many failures and maintain our assets. And the events tracking, we have been able to track our events, compare them, and get the feedback from the system about our assets' performance. There are a lot of realized benefits from implementing this center. We have been able to enhance the assets' lifetime. Also, our plant availability was almost 100%, which is very tangible and remarkable in the asset performance. Also, have noticed great reduction in the maintenance cost and in the carbon emissions. All of that has been reflected also in the maintenance and reliability KPIs. We have noticed a lot of improvement in our KPIs, and these numbers are showing the improvement that we had after the implementation of this Reliability Intelligence Center. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Al-Kwarni. Can I invite you to take place in the seats, because we are going to continue after the presentations or the introductions with the chat together with the chairman of the jury. So it's an honor to also invite Mr. Peter Bosmans to join us on the stage. Peter Bosmans is working at Cytech, and he is going to talk about the data and AI-driven plant optimization project that have been doing. So Peter, maybe very quickly, how did you end up being a strategist at Cytech Services?
It's a drive for better performance and for less cost per ton. And at Cytech, they wanted somebody who can help the customers to achieve that with their plant.
Yeah. And so you have been active for years in our world of reliability and asset performance. So yes, so please go ahead and present what you have done.
the industry 4.0 and its challenges. What we do at Cytec is we have the opportunity, we're not OEM connected, so we can choose from the toys you have seen here downstairs, and we pick our sources of data, put it together. We link it also with IP21 and process data, and so we have a complete digital factory available for analytics. What we have found out is something about prescriptive maintenance, which is very interesting for our customer. And it was by chance. Normally, our customer asks us for the heat exchanger, at what point is it ideal to clean the heat exchanger? So where is the sweet spot, and how can you prevent it and predict it? So we did some data analytics. And the blue spots are the borderlines or the threshold values. The red ones are old measured values, and the light ones, the bright ones, are the latest ones. So you see, for the cleaning of the heat exchanger, you move from the red ones to the bright ones. So we could predict with this model when we had to clean this one. Then during a weekend, something weird happened, and always in the weekends at operation, weird things happen. And on Monday morning, the heat exchanger was clean and good performing, and we didn't do a cleaning at that one. So we had the anomaly machine was giving us a lot of errors, and we also asked the technology guys and our static engineers, how can this happen? Are we measuring the fault wrong materials? So we did an examination, and we found out the mistake the operator has done. And we simulated that one a few months later. And we saw that with the handling the operator has done, you cleaned it in production. So the point where you can predict that you have to clean the heat exchanger was moved further away in the future. That means for cost, normally you have the sweet spot in the predictive one. We could move with prescriptive even lower in cost, because the euros per ton of maintenance cost to get it up and running are lower by doing this way. I have to add, we were not allowed to add additional measurements on the heat exchanger, so we had to do it with the data which was available from more than 10 years ago, so the old measurements, flow, and pressure over the heat exchanger. We implemented this and automated this, so it automatically cleans now. We never have to, normally every 3 years we have a stop to have this big heat exchanger cleaned. It's not necessary anymore. It's working better than ever before, and this is the new technology. We couldn't do that with previous technology years ago.
In our rapidly changing world, tomorrow will be different from today. You want to be in control, stay ahead, adapting to what comes next. Anytime, anywhere. Imagine this was your plant. Every element is crucial to the process. Take nothing for granted. We are Cytec. Our unique, tailor-made approach allows multidisciplinary teams to monitor, analyze, and improve based on real-time data. We utilize the latest technologies, enabling risk-based inspections and transferring data for plant digitization. This data helps us to improve and retain knowledge on a journey with our customers. We've created a digital platform for safe and efficient work, and are able to train and educate in a virtual environment. Your staff will benefit from smarter operations with less reactive work. It's this prescriptive approach that sets us apart, retaining your control, Sharpening your focus. Leading your business.
Thank you, Peter, for sharing your insights, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper into your application further on. So please take a seat, and then now it's up to me to invite the third case on the stage. So Mr. Thomas van Mechelen, please join us on the stage, and you're going to talk about the app that Remotive has developed. So if it's okay, here is the clicker. Yep. Please go ahead and present the case.
Very much. First of all, I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you, BMS, for inviting us, to give us the opportunity to be here as well. Unfortunately, we don't have the time we had a couple of hours ago. So I would like to ask you all, if you got any further questions about our presentation, feel free to ask me or one of my colleagues presents after the award show. So we are Remotive, and we built an app. We like to call the app Reform. And the reasons why we built this app, we got a couple of reasons. We always like to call it the reasons to act, the whys. Why did we do it? Is one, the consistent content. When we were working with pen and paper, we always saw which report was from who. I think we all have the same problem. Some reports were written really well. Others weren't written that well. Some of the reports had all the asked data. Others didn't have the data we asked for. So we're thinking we are an independent company who want to achieve the highest quality for our clients. So how can we tackle this problem? Next is the timing of the reports. A lot of the reports came after the technician finished the reports. Some of the reports came a little later, and other reports just didn't came at all. They got stuck in their cars, or they vanished miraculously. So I think we all have the same problem. Then again, we want to achieve the highest quality for our clients. So this one as well, we want to tackle this problem and see how we can handle this. Then we had the fun factor. As we know, we see our technicians as people who love to work with their hands, who love to do what they do, being a technician. And then it's actually sad that you have to do something else. You have to go sit behind a desk and start typing a report. I don't know who in here likes typing reports. Maybe you can raise your hand if you like typing reports. Don't see a lot of hands. So exactly, that's the thing we wanted to eliminate for our technicians. Then the brain drain. Brain drain is really important in every sector, including ours. The knowledge and the brain is something we always have to take into account. And what if it was possible that we kept the knowledge of people who retired, technicians who stopped working for us, they just quit their job? How could we capture that knowledge? And last but not least, the training on the job. What if it was possible to reduce the training for our technical staff by, we don't know how many %, I'll come to that later, but what if it was possible to reduce the timing for the training? So then we came to our conclusion. I'm going to show a movie because it's easier to give a look and feel on how the app works. It's a simplified version, so here it is.
Wanneer je de Reform-app opent, kan je een bestaande template gebruiken of een nieuwe template aanmaken. Wanneer je een nieuwe template wil aanmaken, klik je op Add Template. Je geeft de nieuwe template een naam. Binnen deze template voeg je de nodige vragen toe. Er zijn verschillende types vragen mogelijk. Zijn alle vragen voor deze template toegevoegd? Dan sla je hem op. Vanaf nu kan je deze afgewerkte template gebruiken voor verschillende jobs. Om een nieuwe job aan te maken, klik je op Create en selecteer je de gewenste template uit de lijst. Nadat je de job hebt aangemaakt, ziet de technieker de openstaande opdrachten op de app en kan deze aan de slag. Hij volgt nauwgezet de opgegeven stappen en vult de gevraagde informatie aan. Dat kunnen foto's zijn, maar ook data van metingen of geschreven informatie. Zijn alle stappen van de opdracht doorlopen, dan slaat hij de opdracht op. De informatie komt toe bij de administratie, die de informatie kan raadplegen en een rapport kan genereren. Dit kan hij doorsturen via mail naar de klant of afdrukken indien gewenst.
So as you can see, this is a really easy way to change the digitalization process of reporting. Now, about the results. After implementing our digitalization, we saw 100% consistency in reports, meaning that all reports are containing the same information, the same picture, the same data analysis that we asked them to. We got 100% customer satisfaction, meaning that our client is 100% satisfied with our reports. We also include extra questions for the clients. If they specifically ask us to put a question in the reports, we managed to do so. Then 9–15% more maintenance and inspection hours per month. Actually, this is kind of huge. Because of using the app, our technicians don't have to sit behind the computer and start typing all of the reports. The app does this for ourselves automatically. All knowledge is safe and saved into the cloud. We can directly access the data we need within minutes. And the training hours of our new employees has decreased with 50%, meaning that they can work independently twice as fast as they used to do. So what do our technicians have to say about this?
Maar vroeger moest alles op papier gezet worden, dus de meetrapporten moesten allemaal gewoon op papier neergepend worden, zeg maar. Als er een schade of dergelijke was, werd daar een omschrijving van gegeven, maar dat was het ook een beetje. Het gevaar van werken met pen en papier is dat je niet altijd duidelijk kan zijn naar de klant toe van wat het precies is en wat de kosten zijn, wat er eventueel van schade is of dergelijke. Het is ook heel tijdsrovend om dat allemaal op papier te zetten en soms gaat er ook wel een keer wat info verloren en dergelijke. Dus dan is het zo dat het eigenlijk allemaal tijdverliezen is. Sinds kort gebruiken wij voor deze administratie een reform. Dat is dus een app eigenlijk die op ons afgesteld is, waar we alle info en dergelijke kunnen in neerzetten. Ook heel gemakkelijk naar de klant toe, die dan precies kan zien wat er is, wat er van schade is, wat er moet hersteld worden. We steken daar ook foto's bij. Dat ook heel duidelijk is voor de klant van kijk, dat is er aan. En dat zetten we dan in die app, zodat alles heel overzichtelijk is over het totaalplaatje dan van de kosten die er eventueel zouden zijn.
In begin. So does our journey end here? As we firmly believe that digitalization or innovation is something that we have to work for every day, and we think we have to try and be better every moment we can. Not at all. Right as we speak, we are innovating the app. We're working on data analysis, implementing other languages, and most important, we want to introduce the app to existing and to new clients, so they also can feel the positive changes what the app does to the clients. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Koen. I would like to quickly invite the chairman of the jury, Mr. Erwin Bouvijn, to join me on the stage, because of course we are running a little bit late. Apologies for that, but I promise in 10 minutes we are rounding up and then we can go for the walking dinner. So Erwin, thank you very much for joining me. Maybe a first question first here. How do you become member of the jury and even chairman of the jury?
Oh, I have good connections. Huh?
Ah, okay.
No, well, you know my history as good as I am. I did win the maintenance. I was maintenance manager of the year in 2009, and after that I did win the European version of it, the Euro Maintenance Incentive Award, and that content. And well, that's how I was merged in your daily life, Wim.
Yeah, well, and thank you very much for your engagement as a chairman of the jury, but also as a board member of BEMAS. We are really grateful for your time and your passion for driving forward our community. So Erwin, please take a seat. And let's have a question maybe with the first case for you. Remotive is a small company. How many people are working for you?
We have 36 employees, which includes 29 technicians.
And implementing and even developing this app, was quite a huge investment.
Yeah, speaking for a small company, we're not the biggest, we know. So we're talking about a big investment. We're talking about 180,000 euros, which is just the start of the investment. Then there are other costs which come into account, like every year we pay 15,000 euros for the cloud services and little tweaks that the development team does.
Okay. And does it pay off? Did you calculate somehow a return on investment?
The only thing we can measure are the working hours, the increase in efficiency with the working hours. And if we take into account that we're working with 29 employees, and I showed it in my slide before, we're working with 29 employees, and let's just say an technician earns 40 euros an hour. So let's lowball it a bit. And then 9% of a year is 180 hours. And if we calculate that, it's around 280,000 euros that you can save a year just by letting them do something else than sitting behind their desk and writing reports.
Okay, thank you for this explanation. What we are wondering, you talk about more working hours, new tools on the field. We can imagine that technicians receive it with pleasure. So the management of change is important. How are you able to sell it to your people?
Well, as we all know, in the beginning, working with a staff, working with technicians, innovation is always hard to do so. Every technician has his own feel, has his own way of working, and innovation is always captured as something as we're gonna take away their freedom of other ways. But actually, after a couple of months, for one it was 1 month, for the other it was 2, they really love the app that they're working with right now. But in the beginning, of course, it's always a struggle because everybody likes their way of working and everybody has his routines, and that's something you have to get through to get to the cherry on the cake.
Okay, Erwin, do you have some questions for the candidate of SciTech?
Yes, of course. Thanks for your inspiring presentation. You have selected a very interesting use case to demonstrate the efficiency of your service. You told us, and we learned from you, that in the meantime you have more or less 1,000 algorithms running to monitor the performances of your customers. What are the further ambitions? How do you see the development of your service the next years?
For SciTech, we want to extend our services outside of the Gemmelot site in Geleen. So we are looking in the Belgian market if there is a need for assistance in engineering, maintenance engineering, and predictive prescriptive maintenance, who we can help to improve their plans.
Technical evolutions that you...
Technical evolutions, yeah, we're on top. All the suppliers know us. We're the green field for them. We help them with development of new technologies like corrosion radar and things like that. Our first test runs are done at our site with our customers. So we see the latest technology, and we're moving to the next stage where we use mobile devices, and we can, as we've shown in the movie, we can even show the status of your plant on your watch. Yeah, we demonstrated it in this afternoon.
Yes, Peter. One of the other things that you talked during your session was also that having all these algorithms running, that is also now impacting operations, and that you also has defined this kind of window of operations with a huge impact on inspections.
Yeah, for RBI, it's important that the operator stays within the integrity window, the operating window of the plant. So we have made a funnel where he has to control his parameters in that funnel. If he stays in the funnel, we can extend the lifetime of the equipment. So if you don't overheat, if you follow the instructions of 100 degrees per hour raise of temperature, if you follow the instructions of when to add hydrogen, of when to add some oxygen, our computers are continuously analyzing all these tasks, what the operator is doing. And if there is an anomaly, so if it's not normal, then it gives feedback, say, oh, you're too early. And this warning will also be discussed in the meeting afterwards, what the impact of that small mistake is on the asset health. And if it is a huge impact, if it, by a mistake, you decrease the lifetime of the asset, that means that the potential turnaround of 2 years ahead will move 6 months closer. So it can have a huge impact. So it's very important that your operator stays within that operating window and integrity window. And we have now all the knowledge of the old operators and of our engineers, chemical engineers, static engineers, written in that algorithm to continuously help the operator to be the best operators we have on site.
Yeah, and that in turn, when an operator manages to stay within this funnel, it does has an impact on the legal inspection periods.
Yeah, because we have with the RBI studies, you do the risk analysis of your equipment, and all the failure modes are calculated and reviewed. And if you can remove the cause to have that failure, what we do in that funnel, if you stay in that funnel, the cause is not happening, we can predict a longer lifetime. So with this analytics, and together with our legal authorities, we check that we can prove that we are within this matrix, and they allowed us to run a distillation column for 18 years without internal inspection. We've set some additional sensors from your sponsors here on the outside of the distillation column to have the monitoring more correct and to be very sure that we stay within that integrity window.
Yeah, and that of course has a huge impact on the return.
That means that 2 times during the turnaround, the internal inspection can be skipped. It's a huge impact on the turnaround cost and also on the workload of the turnaround. And
okay, thank you very much. Erwin, for the third candidate or the first case of Aramco.
Yes, also thank you very much for your inspiring presentation. One of the slides you showed the improvement and the results, and well, the whole world I think is interested. How the hell did you were able to reduce 47% or the half of your carbon emissions?
Yeah, thank you for the question. You know, the carbon emissions, usually they come with the failures. So whenever you have failure in the equipment, this result in flaring. So in the oil and gas, and people working in the oil and gas, they know that whenever you have failure, there is a associated flaring of the hydrocarbons with each failure. So from the implementation of this smart intelligent center or system that you have, the result was significant. So we have prevented the failure, which resulted also in preventing the flaring, which reduced the carbon emission.
Okay.
What I found quite amazing is, of course, you were able to start from a very solid and very sound basis of data available in historians, etc. So Saudi Aramco already did the homework for the digitization in forehand, but then you talked about the timing of implementation and also the number of people that were involved in setting up this diagnostic center. So maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that here, because I think the audience will be quite happy to know about how did you achieve this?
Yeah, as you know, Saudi Aramco is a well-established company in the infrastructure. So in the infrastructure of the data historians, they are all available. We have all the communications available, the sensors, assets. So it wasn't very challenging. It's a challenge to do this, but it's not that very. So this system was achieved by 3 of our engineers. At the beginning, we were looking at outsourcing this, but our engineers were able to do it, and they were claiming we need to do it in-house. So they did it. They did it in a short time, and we have seen the result. There was support from our management to go with this implementation. So at the end, we have seen very promising and significant results from this implementation. We haven't expected to reach this result. We expected good results, but this went so far. So this is the reason we have came and wanted to share this with everyone in the asset management community.
And thank you very much for that. So, Mr. Chairman of the jury, it's time to get up to go to the official stage, because now it's the moment supreme. We need to know who is going to win the Asset Performance 4.0 award. So maybe first explain, Arwin, how do we decide and what do we take into account when deciding the winner?
Well, indeed, we take a number of criteria into account to judge the different files. Specifically 8. There is the relevance of the asset performance. We evaluate the recentness and the maturity of the product. We evaluate the digitality, the degree of innovation. Very important, the impact of the transformation and potential impacts, the adaptation, and the approach of the project, and the own contribution of the team. So this resulted in very rich discussions with the jury, and allow me, Wim, to thank them now already, my colleagues, jury members, which I will please stand up if it is possible. So that's Mr. Pierre de Hondreux of the University of Mons. We have Jan Sinave from La Lorraine Bakery Group. We have Herman Baats, these days consultant, but a very rich life behind him in BASF here in Antwerp. And we have Mark Eijkmans from Engie, who was one of the winners last year. So those rich discussions resulted also this year in a winner. And based with the discussions of these criteria, and mainly then the maturity and the impact that we have seen of the product, also the way of the collaboration with the field, which is a very important element to keep it alive for a long time. The Asset Performance 4.0 award is going this year to
the Asset Performance Award is coming here, huh? So
yes.
Of course, we have a robot.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. There's another one.
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
He's curious, I think. Huh?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I would say take the assets, take the award, and then now we are very curious. Who will be the winner of the Asset Performance 4.0 Award 2021?
The winner of this year is Cytech.
Congratulations, Mr. Peter Bosmans and your team, of course. The robots are very happy too, but congratulations. A first reaction.
Well, I hope this is inspiring for you all to join the journey on Industry 4.0. Get some data, get some analytics, get some anomalies, find them out and optimize your plant or your customer.
Okay. So thank you very much for that. On top of this very nice award, you also get the certificate. So, Mr. Chairman, please hand over the certificate for the winner. Yes. Okay. So the certificate goes to SciTech as the winner, but of course also the runners-up really deserve a prize, and this, of course, is the honor of having participated, and it's also a certificate by the chairman. So thank you very much. Also to Remotive and to Saudi Aramco, please go a little bit closer. Yes.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Yes. So congratulations for that. So let's take a family picture here. It needs to go into the press. So very well done. Congratulations to you all.